7:45 in the morning at the United States Capitol. We are now just 45 days from the midterm elections. Republicans are looking to build on recent gains with Latino voters. The group has shifted significantly to the right since 2016. And while a majority still say they do prefer Democrats, a flipped special election seat in South Texas getting a lot of attention ahead of November, with Congresswoman Mayra Flores' win, showing the Republican messaging on faith and the economy are coming home to Latino voters. Joining us now is Paula Ramos. She's the host of Field Report, a series exploring the shift of Latino voters to the right. Paula, it's great to see you again. Thank you for being here. So before, I want to get into some of your excellent reporting, and you talked to Congresswoman Flores as well, but paint the larger picture for us. What do these trend lines look like?
So I think the larger picture is that Latinos have been sending a message for the past 4 years, right? If you take a step back and you just look at 2020, Donald Trump won 7 of the 14 counties along the U.S.-Mexico border, right? And he was able to flip 2 of those. And he made significant inroads in places like the Rio Grande Valley. Fast forward to this summer, someone like Mayra Flores suddenly becomes the first Republican to win Hidalgo County in over 100 years. Fast forward to where we are now, we're not just talking about Mayra Flores. There's 3 Latina Republicans in South Texas that are running for office that are completely transforming the dynamics of politics in Texas, right? And I think the message is that suddenly this hypothetical question of, can the Rio Grande Valley, this stronghold for the Democrats, this majority Latino region, can a place like that suddenly become the region that gives Republicans this final push they need through the finish line? That used to be a hypothetical question. It no longer is. So I think the point here isn't to really sensationalize this story. We're not trying to say that Republicans are winning the national Latino vote. What we're trying to say is that Democrats are losing it. And that Latinos are sending a message, and we need to listen.
And what is behind this, Paula? What are the central issues to the voters, let's say, in that 34th district of Texas that was, for many, many years, was a Democratic seat, was held. Joe Biden won there in 2020, but was flipped by Mayra Flores to become Republican. Why did it happen? What are the issues at the center of this move?
So let's take Mayra Flores. When you turn on the TV, when you see her campaigning, the 3 words that she would always say are God, family, and country. Dios, familia, y patria. She repeated that. And that's because she bet on this notion that at our core, Latinos are more conservative than what perhaps they want to see. And that's something that I saw on the ground time and time again. I met countless Latinos that on paper are Democrats, on record vote Democrats. Their family members have always voted for Democrats, but I think that in their hearts and in their souls, they're more conservative. When asked, are you pro-choice? The answer was typically no. When asked, do you support same-sex marriage? Many times he said no. But when asked, have you ever voted for a Republican in your life? Many times the answer was no. And then suddenly here comes Mayra Flores with this message, and she makes the case that, look, I look like you. I sound like you. I look like you. I'm from the border. I was born in Mexico. Puedo hablar español. You no longer have to vote for Democrats. No, you don't have to do that. And it worked. She won in a district that Joe Biden won by 4 points. She won by almost twice as much. Now, really the elephant in the room, the question is, where was the DNC?
Right, and her opponent, Democratic opponent, was outspoken about that, said he got no support from the National Party. Let's listen to part of your conversation with Congresswoman Flores, who pulled off that win in the special election in a traditionally Democratic district. Here's what she said.
Part of what really resonated with voters here was your campaign slogan. It was God, family, and country. What does that mean to you?
Dios, familia y patria.
¿Qué es eso para usted?
Significa mucho. Significa quién soy. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't because I live in prayer every single day.
In your special election campaign, do you think you were also able to garner the support of Democrats?
I wouldn't have won if I wouldn't have had support from Democrats.
Obviously, Paula, the issue of immigration is front and center right now with nearly 2 million border arrests in this fiscal year. The story of Ron DeSantis taking migrants from Texas and flying them up to Martha's Vineyard to make a point. How much does immigration play in those races in the swing district down along the border that you talk to people about?
I mean, they live and breathe immigration every single day, right? But I will say it's more nuanced. No, even someone like Mayra Flores she wouldn't be able to say, look, I am against legalizing the over 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country, because she knows that she's representing thousands and thousands of families that lived in mixed status families. She knows that part of her constituents are also undocumented immigrants. So I had various conversations with various groups. You can't get a right or wrong answer. But I will say this, what we learned, the real strategy behind what Republicans are doing is that they're also going into the churches. They're going into Latino evangelical churches, and they have figured out that if you go inside and you organize these evangelical spots, you're able to increase the turnout for Republicans. And so that's pretty new, right? Because what they're saying is, if Democrats have been doing this for many years in black churches, if they've been able to sort of increase that base, why can't we do it with Latino evangelicals? And I found that to be very interesting.
Paula, what is it about Dios, Familia y Patria that Democrats are not getting? That's a slogan that is not inimical to anything that progressives care about, or any policy positions. And it seems to me it's almost a matter of affinity and sort of getting these voters. That's something that Democrats are not doing. Is that your perception, or again, is it concrete issues?
I think really just behind the power of those words that seemed to resonate, it was a strategy. It was this sudden realization that they also could go into these churches the same way that Mayra Flores' pastor mobilized his church. He mobilized other pastors. He mobilized other churchgoers, because they understood that they can leverage that force there. Why? Because if you take a step back, Latinos are actually the fastest growing demographic that are turning into evangelicals. There are more Latinos now that are opening churches than ever before. More Latinos are leaving the Catholic Church than ever before. And I think Republicans have understood that there's a political strategy there, that you can really leverage that. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is this question again of, where were the Democrats? Where was the DNC during this moment? If you just look at the numbers, you really understand that Mayra Flores completely outraised her opponent 10-1. Republicans put over $1 million in her campaign just in TV ads, compared to the over $130,000 that Democrats put into Mayra Flores' opponent. And so that's the question. They inadvertently created a Republican incumbent. I think they took it for granted. They said, look, come November, after redistricting, our shot is way better shot. We have a good opportunity of winning. But in doing that, the Democrats created Mayra Flores. They gave her this opportunity. They gave her a seat at the White House. And so those are the two things that are going on. This big void, and also this new political strategy in the churches.
Paula, it's Sam Stein here. Obviously, money investment matters. Showing up at churches and community matter, talking to voters matter. I would suspect that Democrats probably erred, and correct me if I'm wrong here, in looking at the landscape and saying, Donald Trump had a policy of separating families at the border. Ron DeSantis has, in recent weeks, taken migrants, put them on planes, and relocated them as objectively a political stunt. Why, that is the sales job for us. Point to these things, and we should win the Hispanic Latino vote. If you were advising the Democratic Party, my guess is you'd say that's not enough. You have to do much more than that. But what would you say would be the proportion of resources and focus on what the Republicans are doing versus issues like the economy, investment in community, and cultural issues, frankly?
Yeah, I think that the top line here is that immigration has truly never been a top issue for Latinos. And I think that's the myth. The myth is, if you talk about migrants, if you show these stories, that Latinos will vote for you. That's not true. Latinos care about the economy. They care about crime. They care about jobs. They care about education. That's it. They want to be talked to and spoken to the same way that Democrats would go out for any other vote. So I think it's a matter of, at least, if you're looking at the story of Mayra Flores, at least matching that, at least spending the resources, at least showing up and listening. And I think that's the story here. Latinos, as I said at the beginning, they're sending a message. They're drifting away. They're walking away from the Democratic Party. And here's the case study. Is it because of these structural democratic problems? Is it because the DNC wasn't there? Or perhaps, is it because someone like Mayra Flores unearthed an uncomfortable truth, meaning that Latinos perhaps may be more aligned with Republicans than we want to see? And I think that's the question at heart here.
Fascinating report that tells us so much about politics right now. Field Report airs tonight at 10 p.m. on MSNBC and also streaming on Peacock. Paulo Ramos, thank you so much for being here and for bringing this to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still ahead.